In an interview with Yahoo Sports, Jeremy Lin said he feels he has to justify his contract and his heritage. Quote, "I was a little surprised, but I wasn't shocked. I honestly feel it's part of the underlying issue of race in American society, of being an Asian American. I haven't figured it out. I haven't wrapped my head around it, but it's something I'm thinking about. I've always been a target. Everyone looks at me and says, I'm not going to let that Asian kid embarrass me. I'm going to go at him. That's how it's been my whole life. This has been different, though. Now I was on the scouting report. People started to pay attention to what I could do and what I couldn't do. But a target, I was not used to that. I'm not saying I get everyone's best shot, but I would say people don't want to be embarrassed by me because of my skin color." We welcome in Rob Parker and Christian Fourier to the debate desk. Gentlemen, this is a hot topic, and I want to know, I'll start with you first, Rob. Do you agree or disagree?
I think race does play a factor in the Jeremy Lin situation because you know what? Race also played a part of it for why Jeremy Lin was on the cover of Sports Illustrated twice in 2 weeks when I don't think some of the greatest players who ever played sports were never on the cover because Sports Illustrated wanted to sell magazines. I get it. It's also the reason people looked at him as such an unusual story and why a kid from Harvard, an Asian kid, all of a sudden became this sensation because people looked at him and said, wow, this is unbelievable. I seriously doubt that if there was an undrafted black kid from Harvard who did the same exact thing, would have never been on Sports Illustrated's cover twice. It just wouldn't have happened.
I'm with you.
And this whole deal and contract, and Jeremy Lin has to understand, as an undrafted guy, for him to get that kind of money, $25 million after just playing 64 games in the NBA and 35 last year, people are going to come at you and question why you got paid the money that you got paid. He's not the only one. I'm going to give you two quick names. John Koncak, you remember him, Skip?
I covered him at SMU.
Okay.
Who got a contract.
Right, John Koncak was his nickname.
Yeah.
Who got a ridiculous contract, 6 years, $13 million. He was making more than Magic, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan, okay? And Jim McIlvain with Seattle, do you remember him? Sure. Signed a 6-year, 7-year, $33 million contract. And did people go at those guys when they played them? Yes, they did, because they wanted to show these guys, you do not deserve those contracts.
And isn't that more what it's about? I mean, it comes down to, who's getting all the attention, who's getting all the money. When I used to play against a guy, if I knew a linebacker or another tight end on the other side of the ball was making a lot of money, more than me, I want to play better than him. Or if it was against a linebacker, I want to make sure I showed him up, put him on his back, blocked him, caught a couple balls against him. It became down to not resenting the fact that he was getting the money, but proving that he didn't deserve it as much as everybody thought he would. The race issue always comes up to it, and this had more of a Tim Tebow smell to it a lot last year when it was kind of coming around because it was getting a lot of attention.
But you got to admit that he did get a lot of attention because he was Asian. I do believe that.
But at the same time now, okay, when he's playing now, I mean, what do people in New York talk about what was the biggest issue? That he didn't deserve all that money. Nobody wanted to give him his props. Probably so. We're starting to find out that maybe he doesn't deserve it.
Although, Rob, I must say, if that black kid, hypothetically from Harvard, came in early on and scored 38 against the Lakers, I think we'd raise our eyebrows. I mean, I think we'd be impressed.
Would he be on the cover of Sports Illustrated?
No.
No way, no how, Skip.
Yeah,
and that was selling a magazine and putting it out there like that.
Sure.
And that was a part of him being Asian. And the deals that were coming through, they were like, he was supposed to going to get a Nike deal bigger than LeBron James. You know why? Because they looked at all the Asian kids over there and said they could sell sneakers. Sure. So he benefited from being Asian, so don't look at it and just say it's all negative by him being Asian.
Yeah. Stephen A., weigh in.
Well, first of all, to get fairness out of the way first, Jeremy Lin was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week after starting his first 4 games, averaging 27 and 8. Nobody called him a scrub. He obviously proved that he could play, and the fact that he was undrafted and was sent to the D-League on 3 separate occasions, it was a great story. But at the same time, again, as Christian brought up in terms of being Tebow-like, as Rob brought up accurately, I might add, by bringing up Sports Illustrated and what have you, it speaks to a different, a bigger issue, rather, that's underlying. And people need to understand that when we say race, we're not talking racism all the time. Okay? Sometimes when you talk about race, you're just talking about the dichotomy that exists in terms of treatment from one folk to another, the level of fairness or lack thereof. One of the reasons why, Skip, you and I have been friends for years is because I've always found you to be incredibly fair. Rob Parker is not just a friend, but a mentor and a big brother to me from years. Rob has known me since I was in college. Rob mentored me because I was in college. What was one of the first things you taught me, Rob? We talked about fairness and how, as African Americans, we can expect very little of that. One of my best friends in the world lives out here in California. He's the one that coined the phrase, fair is a place where they judge pigs. It doesn't exist. Why? Because it's something that we have to anticipate and we have to expect. So when you're talking about a Tim Tebow, or in this case, a Jeremy Lin, it's not so much about their exploits or the things that they accomplish. It's about the level of treatment they receive because of it in comparison to what those coming from the African American community have received. And that's where all of this comes to. We can go, let's say, for example, when we talk about the greatness of Magic Johnson to Larry Bird, and let me get a little deep here. When you talk about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, yes, there's a couple. Magic Johnson was great and ultimately won a national championship at Michigan State, being Larry Bird's Indiana State team. But if you remember, the NBA was on tape delay. Well, what happens? You had a situation where, because the NBA was on tape delay, you had the guy, Larry Bird, and you juxtaposed that to Magic Johnson, and you were able to sell the combo. And it also helped that Magic Johnson, you know, oozed with just enthusiasm and always had this perpetual smile and all of these things. He made people comfortable. And that was considered foreign, coming from a black athlete, to a lot of people in America. Skip, you can speak to that significantly better than me. So I'm saying to you that when you look to today's world and you see a Jeremy Lin and you see a Tim Tebow, and you compare that to athletes who have had, not in one case whether it's a marginal skill or it's, you know, achieving something for 35 games or whatever the case may be, and being so celebrated. The reason why race comes into play is because when Jeremy Lin steps out onto that court, you have guys who believe that they're just as good, if not better than him, that look at it and say, well, if I accomplished what he accomplished, but I did it over such a short period of time, would I have been celebrated like this? The answer to that is absolutely positively not. So because of that, it builds resentment. And then you get people coming at you to expose you, but not really it's about you. It's really about exposing the system that they believe contributes to keeping them down and not allowing them the level of notoriety that has been accorded to somebody else of a different ethnicity. And that's where the volatility comes into play, and it's inescapable, and it's always around. We try to ignore it and bypass it, but it's never going to work until people acknowledge that some folks are treated differently than others.